What's up, you guys? I'm Dan, this is Frugal Not Cheap, and today we'll go over a list of some of my favorite movies about money. So, this being a personal finance channel, I figured you might be interested in watching some entertainment around that topic. And to that end, I've put together a list of some of my favorite movies and documentaries about money. They're not exactly in order of best to worst or anything like that at all, just in an order that I thought would be fun for the video. So the first one is The Wolf of Wall Street. This was directed by Martin Scorsese and starred Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill. And it's probably one of the more well-known ones, one that you're most likely to have seen, so that's why we're starting off with it, based off of Jordan Belfort's life. Loosely, but anyway, a little bit based off of him. He goes to start his own firm, where he basically is doing a pump and dump scheme with penny stocks, much like another one of the movies that we'll talk about on this list. So the runtime's a little long, but the production value of the movie is really good. A lot of very, very funny scenes, very crass. So if you enjoy that and you haven't seen it, by all means, check it out. Next, we've got one that in some ways, I don't know if it's all that great of a movie, but it's certainly very, very memorable. And that is Glengarry Glen Ross. And this is a movie that's famous not just amongst traders, but really amongst the salesmen of any kind. You know, these guys are basically selling, I don't know if it's totally bogus, but anyway, it's not good. They're just trying to get people to do these land deals. And it talks a lot about closing and there's a very, 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 very famous scene that I want to play for you here. So again, it's a very bleak movie, kind of shows the desperation of the salesman when things aren't going well. And I don't know, just very, very memorable. So I would check it out. Now we'll look at a couple of documentaries that I think are really interesting. The first one's called Park Avenue, Money, Power, and the American Dream. And it essentially talks about how people that are living at 740 Park Avenue live in a completely different world than the people that live further down on Park, where it actually ends up being a relatively high poverty area. And it also talks about some of perhaps the systemic issues that are going on in terms of income inequality and lobbying and that kind of thing.
Schwartzman paid just under $30 million for this apartment. Pocket change for a Wall Street tycoon worth over $5 billion.
If a few people, do really well, why is that such a big deal? Isn't that just proof of the American dream? You work hard and you're successful.
We as a society have very complex views about economic inequality. Americans are not of the view that all inequalities of wealth or income are unjust. And in fact, they think if you work harder, if you seize opportunities, then you should be able to get ahead.
Jacob Hacker is a political scientist at Yale and the co-author of Winner Take All Politics, which argues that this extraordinary accumulation of wealth at the top isn't just about hard work. It's about wealthy interests using the political system to rig the rules in their favor.
There's been a reinforcing cycle. Those at the top have done well. They've invested in policies that are favorable to them, and they've done even better, and then they've churned a lot of that money back into politics.
But anyway, it's a fun documentary. I'm not 100% sold on sort of the whys and also of any prescriptions that they might say, but I think it's a very interesting documentary. Next, we've got Inequality for All. This one is done by a guy named Robert Reich. He's a shorter gentleman, Rhodes Scholar, who actually did that along with Bill Clinton and served on Bill Clinton's administration, I think as labor secretary. Anyway, very, very sharp guy, great film, also high production value. We'll talk about many of the reasons why there has been rising income inequality here in the United States.
My name is Robert Reich. I was Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton. Before that, the Carter administration. Before that, I was a special aide to Abraham Lincoln. Of all developed nations, the United States has the most unequal distribution of income, and we're surging toward even greater inequality. 1928 and 2007 become the peak years for income concentration. It looks like a suspension bridge.
Last year, we made $36,000.
I probably make $50,000 a year, working 70 hours a week.
The middle class is struggling. People occasionally say to me, What nation does it better? The answer is the United States. In the decades after World War II, the economy boomed, but you had very low inequality.
Again, I don't agree necessarily with all of his prescriptions and 100% with kind of the causes, but a lot of it I do, and I think it's a very interesting film as well, and I would encourage you to check this one out as well. Those are the only 2 documentaries on this list. Our next movie is a movie called Margin Call. This one's got a fantastic cast, including Kevin Spacey and that kid from Gossip Girl, I think. But probably my favorite character is his boss. And actually, it's the kid from Gossip Girl and then that guy from Heroes. I can't remember his name. Zachary Quinto. That's the one. But it's a great movie. It has the feeling of being just one very, very long and trying night before the market crashes, and they have a giant margin call.
What have I told you since the first day you stepped into my office? There are 3 ways to make a living in this business: be first, be smarter, or cheat. No, I don't cheat. And although I like to think we have some pretty smart people in this building, it sure is a hell of a lot easier to just be first.
Sell it all today.
And of course, it goes into the issue as well of income inequality as well, and sort of American finance in general and capitalism. But really, really good movie. There's especially this one interesting talk with one of the, I guess he was the risk management guys later on in the movie, talking about how he used to be a structural engineer. And, one of the themes, of course, is that finance tends to bring in a lot of people that are very intelligent and talented and can be doing all kinds of good work elsewhere. But because the money's so good, they end up in finance. And speaking of the money being good in finance, we have next a movie called Boiler Room, which features a very famous speech by Ben Affleck, where he talks about how everybody at the firm is going to become very famous. And of course, they the firm that they've got going on is a boiler room. It's just pump and dump scheme again, a lot like Wolf of Wall Street. But here they call the firm J.T. Marlin because it sounds just a little bit like J.P. Morgan. Anyway, it's a funny film, really good. It's got Vin Diesel in it as well, and the speech is really a classic. So if you haven't seen it, another one to put on your watch list. And then last but certainly not least on my list of favorite movies about finance or money is The Big Short. This one's probably my favorite. Actually, bought a digital copy and will rewatch it every now and then. Just an amazing piece, and the whole housing market crash was a really interesting time, the Great Recession of 08-09. At the time, I was actually working on, I was either working on my master's or I just started my first year of a doctorate in economics. I just remember being a teaching assistant for a guy's Econ 101 class. While of course, the market was collapsing and all this stuff was going on. It was really, really an interesting time, and also I was fortunate to be in the middle of school at the time because it was certainly not a good job market out there. Although actually the job market was pretty tough even after that for quite some time. Anyway, this movie is directed by Adam McKay, but features really an all-star cast. I don't remember all of their names, but you've got Ryan Gosling as the sort of the mainish character, I guess the main narrator from Deutsche Bank. You've also got Steve Carell doing a much more dramatic role than he typically does. All of the actors that portray his staff are hilarious. And just all around, there's some really great and comedic performances, while at the same time teaching you a lot about finance. So a lot of the terms that they use are explained by celebrities that do little cameos, like Margot Robbie and Anthony Bourdain, even Selena Gomez. Oh, and then how could I forget? It's got Christian Bale playing Michael Burry. He's one of these guys that he had a little hedge fund out in California, and created a lot of these, had banks create for him these credit default swaps, and profited handsomely in the long run, in the end, from the meltdown. But of course, things were quite testy along the way. But yeah, great cast, great movie, very very informative. but just an awesome watch, and definitely my favorite. In fact, I might go and watch it when I stop filming. Oh, and I did want to make one more honorable mention, of course, and that's for the movie Wall Street from the 80s. Also has a very famous speech where Gordon Gekko, his character, Michael Douglas's character, Gordon Gekko, talks about how greed is good. And it was directed by Oliver Stone, so of course you can imagine he's a director of great caliber. But for me, I don't know, the film just doesn't quite rank up there amongst my favorites, although that speech, of course, is very famous. And I think just in terms of checking off the list of which movies you should have seen, this is one to watch, and who knows, you might like it more than I did. So that's the list. I hope that gives you something to put on your watch list. If you end up watching any of these, I hope you enjoy them. Many of them are in some ways a bit educational. So, hope you liked today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.